time for the morning must-read. The former Finnish Prime Minister also wrote a little bit earlier on in the Financial Times, the U.S. is handing over the key to world politics. We should leave the door ajar for its return. But meanwhile, I hope the EU will seize the moment, grab the key and start taking a more prominent role on the world stage. None of its member states can do it alone, but together the EU will be able to punch above its weight. Well, we're very pleased to be joined by Alexander Stubb, and still with us in New York is Komal Sri-Kumar. Alexander Stubb, great to have you in the program. Thank you so much for giving us so much of your time. Look, the problem with the European Union is that there's a lack of commonality. You speak to every world leader that is a leader of Europe, and they're worried domestically about policies, and they don't really have a joint connection.
Yeah, that's probably one of the key reasons why the whole European Union was founded. The idea was to have an institutional structure whereby you wouldn't allow nationalism to take precedent. Now we live in a global world, and it would be quite useful if the EU did a lot better on trade, did a lot better on world politics. They have to do it together. But the problem is that a lot of European leaders, myself included at the time, we play to a domestic audience. So basically we say everything that is bad comes from Brussels and everything that's good is thanks to me at home. That's the basic problem.
Does Donald Trump actually destabilize Europe?
No, well, yes and no. He destabilizes world politics because the US took basically and became the champion of world politics, the only global leader post-World War II. Now he's given that key away because you can't be the leader of the free world or the leader of globalization if you basically say no to both. And the question is, who is going to fill that power vacuum and take the space? And I think the Europeans should try to do that. And yes, he does destabilize, but he stabilizes in the sense that I think that a lot of European leaders are sort of looking around. We don't want other Trumps popping up like mushrooms in Europe. Let's do something about it. And that will bring European leaders a little bit more together.
Mr. Prime Minister, the constraint that Mr. Draghi has is disinflation and deflation in Europe. We talk about all the usual victims, Italy, but Helsinki really says it all when you talk about the domestic audience. Bring up the chart here, and it is a remarkable moderation in interest rates in Finland, right down to the zero bound. How urgent is it to have a Trump reflation in Finland?
Well, that's the kind of a thing that at the end of the day, the ECB, obviously, and Mario Draghi is going to decide. But if you look at Finland as a specific case, remember, we have memories from a severe recession in the early 1990s when our unemployment rates went up to 18% and our interest rates went up to 20%. No one wants that. So we're actually quite happy right now with low interest rates in Finland. A little bit of inflation would obviously do good at this stage. Right. There's no denying that. But I think if you look at the way in which the Finnish economy or the European economies are going right now, they're going in the right direction.
Well, within that, and Sri-Kumar, jump in here, please. And this goes again to something relatively obscure, which is the Finnish contagion. It's not just about the key players. It is a complexity of contagion, isn't it?
The complexity is what it is, Tom. And the Prime Minister spoke about the U.S. giving up the power, this total domination on the global scene. But more than 70 years at the end of the Second World War and after the Maastricht Treaty was started in the early 1990s, we still see Europe not coming together. So in a sense, I don't see the criticism of the United States being so valid. The Finnish contagion, the problem that you have in Europe, and that lack of willingness to take over additional responsibilities, I think, the key part here.
Very quickly, Mr. Prime Minister, I understand you're the only Atlanta Falcons fan in Finland. Would you please talk about the total domination of St. Thomas last night? What happened to your Falcons?
It's a sad event. I mean, I studied at Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina. That's why I always support Southern teams, actually including the Braves in baseball. This time around, the better team won, and there wasn't much we could do about it. But I think the Falcons will come back. They certainly are playing a little bit better than they played in 1989 when I was there.
Francine, his Southern accent is as bad as my Finnish accent. I just want you to know that.